What if I told you a book exists that can give you the power to command the sky, the earth, and the underworld? A book that allows you to understand the speech of animals, to resurrect the dead, and to gaze upon the gods themselves face to face. But there's a catch. The moment you read it, you unleash a curse so terrible that the universe itself will conspire to destroy you and everyone you have ever loved. This isn't fiction. This is the ancient Egyptian legend of the Book of Thoth. The story goes that a brave prince named Neferkaptah heard whispers of this divine text, a scroll written by the hand of the ibis-headed god of wisdom. He was told it was hidden at the bottom of the Nile, locked within a series of nested chests, guarded by immortal serpents. Obsessed, he sacrificed his wife and child to the river to distract the guardians, and he seized the book. For a moment he possessed the knowledge of the gods. He could read the secrets of the cosmos in the stars. But Thoth, the book's author, would not allow such power to remain in mortal hands. The god enacted his revenge from the heavens. Neferkaptah watched in horror as his wife and son, whom he had just seen alive, were taken by the river, their bodies pulled under by an unseen force. Grief-stricken, the prince took his own life, clutching the cursed scroll as he sank into the Nile, doomed to guard it for eternity. This story has been dismissed as a myth for thousands of years. But what if it isn't? What if it's a warning? A historical record of a real artifact, containing knowledge so advanced, so dangerous, it had to be buried under layers of terrifying legend. And it all leads back to one central enigmatic figure, Thoth. We think of him as just another animal-headed deity from a forgotten religion. But the Egyptians saw him as something far more. He wasn't just the god of wisdom. He was the architect of reality, the librarian of the cosmos, the scribe who recorded every event, past, present, and future. And the most provocative question, the one that scholars and mystics have whispered for centuries, is this: was Thoth a god? Or was he a history of something else? A memory of a being who came to Earth in the distant past, a survivor of a lost hyper-advanced civilization, who gifted humanity a technology so profound we called it magic, and a wisdom so vast we called him a god? To understand the secret of the Book of Thoth, we must first understand its author. And his origin story is unlike any other god's. In some accounts he has no parents. He has no beginning. He simply was. He is the self-begotten, the one who came from nothing. In the most prominent creation myth, the sun god Ra, the most powerful being in the cosmos, brought the world into existence through the power of his spoken word. But who gave that word its meaning? Who crafted the very concept of language itself? They say Thoth sprang forth from the lips of Ra as the first divine utterance. He wasn't created by Ra. He was the logic of creation itself. He was the divine mind, the cosmic intelligence that turned chaotic energy into an ordered universe. While Ra represented raw, blinding power, like a star, Thoth represented the intricate laws of physics that governed that star's fire. He was the blueprint of existence. His appearance is one of the most iconic in all of mythology. He is the man with the head of an ibis, a sacred bird known for its long curved beak, which it used to probe the dark, muddy banks of the Nile for hidden food. This was no random choice. To the Egyptians, the ibis symbolized the act of searching for hidden knowledge, of pulling truth from obscurity. He is often depicted holding a scribe's palette and a reed pen, his tools of trade. But these weren't just tools for writing. They were instruments of creation. In the Egyptian worldview, to write something down was to give it permanence, to make it real. As the divine scribe, Thoth didn't just record history. He wrote it. He was the secretary of the gods, sitting in on their divine councils, recording their judgments, and ensuring the cosmic laws were upheld. Every king's reign, every battle won, every soul's journey into the afterlife, it was all written, and therefore made real by the hand of Thoth. This brings us to his greatest gift to humanity: writing. It's impossible for us, in our modern world saturated with text and information, to grasp the monumental impact of this invention. Before writing, human knowledge was fragile. It existed only in memory and spoken word, susceptible to being forgotten or distorted with each passing generation. History was a whisper. Law was a suggestion. Science was impossible. Thoth, the legends say, gifted humanity the hieroglyphs, the sacred carvings. He didn't just give us a way to communicate, he gave us a way to conquer time. For the first time, a person's thoughts, ideas, and discoveries could be etched in stone, outliving their mortal body. A pharaoh could issue a decree that would be followed centuries after his death. A scientist could record an astronomical observation that future generations could build upon. Thoth gave us a collective, external memory. He gave us civilization, but his domain extended beyond the written word. He was the master of all knowledge, both sacred and mundane. He was the architect who designed the great temples, the mathematician who understood the sacred geometry of the universe, and the magician who knew the true names of things, a power which allowed him to command them. He was also deeply connected to the moon. While Ra represented the sun, the source of light and life, Thoth governed the moon, the measurer of time. In the darkness of night, the moon was the only guide. It moved in predictable, calculable cycles. Thoth was the one who established the 365-day calendar, dividing the chaos of eternity into manageable units of months, weeks, and days. He brought order to time itself, allowing for the planting of crops, the tracking of seasons, and the scheduling of religious festivals. He was the divine clockmaker, ensuring the cosmos ran with precision and predictability. He was the balance to the sun's raw power, the calm, calculating intellect in the face of overwhelming force. Nowhere is this role as the voice of reason more clear than in the epic battle for the throne of Egypt between the gods Horus and Set. After Set murdered his own brother, Osiris's son, Horus, rose to claim his father's crown. What followed was a war that raged for 80 years, a brutal, violent conflict that threatened to tear the divine world apart. Horus was the embodiment of righteous fury. Set was the avatar of chaos and brute strength. They fought, maimed each other, and brought the pantheon to the brink of civil war. And who was it that finally settled this cosmic feud? It wasn't Ra with his overwhelming might. It was Thoth. As the divine arbiter, he presided over their trial. He weighed their arguments, examined the evidence, and used his unparalleled wisdom and mastery of law to reach a just verdict. He decreed that Horus, the rightful heir, should be king, but he also placated the chaotic Set by offering him a place ruling the desert storms and foreign lands. He didn't use force, he used logic. He restored cosmic order, or Ma'at, not with a sword, but with a perfectly reasoned argument. This is the being we are dealing with, not just a bird-headed god of writing. He is the primordial intelligence of the universe, the creator of language, law, and time, the being so wise and impartial that even the most powerful and violent gods bowed to his judgment. This was the mind that authored the book that drove a prince to madness, a book said to contain the sum of all his knowledge. So we must ask again, is this just a collection of fanciful myths designed to explain the world? Or are these stories a distorted memory of a real figure, a teacher or guide from humanity's deep past, whose knowledge was so far beyond his time that the only way our ancestors could describe him was as a god? The answer may lie not in what the Egyptians wrote on their temple walls, but in what they claim Thoth wrote himself, a series of legendary texts, including not just his cursed book, but the even more mysterious emerald tablets, which allegedly hold the key to the secrets of the universe and the very nature of reality itself. These texts weren't just dusty scrolls, they were keys. Keys to power so immense it could make a mortal into a god, or shatter their mind into a million pieces. Let's start with the one that almost did both. The Book of Thoth. This wasn't a single book, but a legendary collection of spells, a divine instruction manual written by the ibis-headed god himself. It was said to contain 2 master spells. The first allowed the reader to understand the speech of every animal on earth. The second, far more dangerous, allowed them to perceive the gods themselves, and to command the very forces of nature, the sea, the land, the sky, and the secrets of the grave. Naturally, possessing such a thing was the ultimate ambition for any mortal. And the story of the one who came closest is a chilling warning. His name was Seton-Kamwas, a son of the great pharaoh Ramesses II. But Seton wasn't a warrior prince. He was a scribe, a scholar, obsessed with the ancient magic of his people. He spent his days in the libraries and his nights poring over ancient texts, and he learned of the legend that the Book of Thoth was real and it was hidden. According to the tales, Thoth had sealed his book inside a series of nested boxes. A golden box, inside of that a silver one, then a box of ivory, then ebony, then bronze, and finally iron. And at the very center, the papyrus scroll that held the universe's most dangerous secrets. But Thoth didn't just lock it away. He submerged it at the bottom of the Nile near Coptos, and coiled around the boxes an army of serpents and scorpions, and as a final guardian, a deathless serpent, an eternal sentinel. Any sane person would have heard this and walked away. Seten was not a sane person. His obsession drove him. He convinced his father, the pharaoh, to give him the royal barge and set sail for Koptos. He performed a magical ritual, a divination, to pinpoint the book's location. He cast a spell, creating a magical, breathable chamber of air at the bottom of the river, and walked onto the riverbed as if it were dry land. There he found it, the nest of boxes, guarded by the immortal serpent. The serpent rose to strike, but Seten, a master magician in his own right, was prepared. He fought the creature, beheading it with a magical incantation. But the serpent was deathless. Its head and body rejoined, and it rose again. He struck it down a second time, and a second time it reformed. Finally, realizing he couldn't kill it, he fought it to a standstill, trapping it while he worked on the boxes. He opened the iron, the bronze, the ebony, the ivory, the silver, and finally the golden box. And there it was, the Book of Thoth. As his hands touched the scroll, two ghostly figures appeared. They were the spirits of the book's previous owners, a prince named Nameforkapta and his wife Awur. They warned him, pleading with him to leave the book where it was. They told him their own tragic story, how they had found the book, and how its discovery had brought nothing but ruin. Thoth, enraged by their theft, had caused their son to drown, and in their grief, both Nameforkapta and Awur had taken their own lives. Their spirits were now bound to the book, forced to guard it for eternity. Seten, blinded by ambition, ignored their pleas. He seized the scroll and returned to the surface, a triumphant thief. He unrolled the papyrus and read the first spell. Suddenly, the air was filled with the chirping, buzzing, and roaring of every creature. He could understand the birds in the sky, the fish in the river, the insects in the reeds. He was ecstatic. He then read the second spell. His vision blurred, the veil between worlds thinned, and he saw it, the glorious, terrifying procession of the sun god Ra in his celestial boat, surrounded by the pantheon of gods. He had done it. He held the power of Thoth in his hands. But the curse, as promised, began to unwind. One day, while in the temple courtyard, he saw a woman of impossible beauty. Her name was Tabubu, and Seten was instantly consumed by a lust so powerful it erased all thought of his wife and child. He had to have her. He sent her messages, offered her gold, but she refused him. Finally, she agreed to meet, but only if he signed over all of his property and all of his wealth to her. Desperate, he agreed. He signed the deeds, but that wasn't enough. For her final price, she demanded the unthinkable, the murder of his own children, to ensure that her future children would be his only heirs. And in his magically induced madness, Seten agreed. He had his children brought before him, and he had them killed. As he stood over their bodies, ready to finally claim his prize, Tabubu let out a horrifying, inhuman scream. Her beautiful face melted away, revealing a rotting corpse. The palace dissolved around him. He was standing naked in the street, the whole horrifying scene a divine illusion, a punishment sent by the gods. He rushed home in terror, only to find his wife and children alive and well. It had all been a nightmare, a brutal warning. Horrified and humbled, Seten realized the ghosts had been right. He returned to Koptos, descended once more to the riverbed, and placed the Book of Thoth back in its golden box, begging the spirits of Nameforkapta and Awur for forgiveness. The curse was lifted, but the story serves as a stark reminder. The wisdom of Thoth was not meant for mortals. Yet, as terrifying and powerful as the Book of Thoth was, it was considered by some to be merely a footnote, a single chapter from a far greater, far more mysterious work. A work not written on fragile papyrus, but inscribed on a material that could outlast the stars themselves. This was the true prize, the source code of reality, the Emerald Tablets. Legend describes not a book, but a series of 12 tablets, made from a single piece of emerald green crystal, an otherworldly material that was imperishable, resistant to all force and all elements. The writing on them wasn't hieroglyphic. It was an ancient script, set to shift and change, revealing its secrets only to those who were worthy. And the knowledge it contained dwarfed even the Book of Thoth. It didn't just teach you how to command nature. It explained what nature is. It laid bare the principles of alchemy, the secrets of transmutation, the axiom as above so below, which suggests that the patterns of the cosmos are reflected in the smallest parts of our own world. It was a map of existence. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn, from the sands of pharaonic Egypt into the mists of esoteric history. Because while the Book of Thoth is a legend rooted firmly in Egyptian mythology, the Emerald Tablets are something else entirely. They are the foundational text of a school of thought that would echo through secret societies for thousands of years, influencing alchemists, magicians, and philosophers from the Renaissance to the modern day. This tradition is called Hermeticism, and it gets its name from a figure who is both Thoth and not Thoth, a figure known as Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes the thrice great. Who was this mysterious figure? The Greeks, when they arrived in Egypt, were stunned by the parallels between their own god Hermes, the messenger, the god of language and magic, and the Egyptian god Thoth. They saw them not as two different gods, but as two different cultural interpretations of the same divine being. Over time, these two figures began to merge, to fuse in the minds of scholars and mystics into a single syncretic deity who possessed the wisdom of both civilizations. This new being, Hermes Trismegistus, was seen not just as a god, but as a legendary philosopher, a priest-king, a master of all arts and sciences who had walked the earth in the distant past and left behind his ultimate wisdom, inscribed for all time on those indestructible emerald tablets. So we are left with a profound mystery. Are the emerald tablets a genuine artifact from a lost age, as their believers claim, or are they a later invention? A powerful piece of philosophical fiction created to give weight to a new spiritual movement. The line between the Egyptian god and the Greek legend blurs, creating a puzzle that has captivated seekers for centuries. And at the center of that puzzle is the fundamental question: what did this fused god figure, this master of two pantheons, actually know? What secrets were so powerful they had to be carved into eternal green stone? To understand the knowledge of Thoth Hermes, you don't start with a library of forgotten books. You start with a single, devastatingly simple idea. An idea so powerful it became the cornerstone of alchemy, astrology, and esoteric thought for thousands of years. It's the master key to the entire system, the first and most important line on that fabled emerald tablet. As above, so below. Now, that phrase has been thrown around so much it almost sounds like a cliché. You see it on t-shirts and New Age posters. But to the ancients, this wasn't just a catchy slogan. It was a statement of cosmic physics. It meant that the universe, in its infinite, sprawling complexity, is holographic. The largest structures of the cosmos, the spinning of galaxies and the orbits of stars, are reflected in the smallest structures on Earth, in the spiral of a seashell, the branching of a tree, the very shape of our DNA. The macrocosm and the microcosm are not separate. They are reflections of each other, governed by the same divine blueprint. Think of it like a fractal. No matter how deep you zoom in, you keep seeing the same fundamental patterns repeating over and over again. As above, so below is the ultimate recognition of this pattern. It means that to understand the heavens, you can study the earth. To understand God, you must first understand yourself. The entire universe is mirrored within you, and you are a mirror of the entire universe. This wasn't just poetry. It was a technology for understanding reality. And it's a concept that flows directly from Thoth's original, and perhaps most important, job in the Egyptian pantheon: the keeper of divine balance. Long before he was a mystical Greek figure, Thoth was the ultimate auditor of the cosmos. His most iconic depiction isn't him writing in a book, but him standing beside a set of golden scales. This was the main event of the Egyptian afterlife, the final judgment. On one side of the scale, the heart of the deceased, the vessel containing all their deeds, thoughts, and intentions. On the other side, a single white ostrich feather. This was the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic order. The goal was simple. Your heart had to be lighter than the feather. It had to be free from the weight of greed, deceit, and cruelty. If it balanced, you earned eternal life in the field of reeds. If it was heavy, your heart was tossed to the crocodile-headed demon Ammit, the devourer of souls, and you ceased to exist. And who was the one overseeing this critical moment, recording the verdict with perfect impartiality? It was Thoth. He was the divine accountant, the celestial notary who couldn't be bribed or fooled. He didn't pass the judgment himself. He was the one who ensured the process was fair. He was the embodiment of objective truth. This role as the weigher of hearts is the ultimate expression of as above, so below. The below was your life on earth, the secret reality of your soul stored in your heart. The above was Ma'at, the perfect, unchangeable divine order. Your personal internal reality had to align with the universal external reality. Your microcosm had to balance with the macrocosm. Thoth wasn't just a judge of the dead. He was the master of the equation that connected human morality to cosmic law. But his role as a cosmic architect went far beyond the afterlife. The Egyptians believed the world operated on a set of divine laws, and Thoth was the one who understood them intimately. He was the god of measurement, of mathematics, of sacred geometry. When a temple was to be built, it was Thoth who was invoked to ensure its dimensions were sacred, aligned with the stars, and in harmony with the divine plan. He was the engineer of the gods. While Ra might provide the raw power of creation, it was Thoth who provided the blueprint. He knew the precise angles, the correct numbers, the secret ratios that made the universe stable. He was the reason the Nile flooded on schedule, the reason the stars moved in predictable patterns, the reason the seasons changed. He was the logic behind the magic. And the tool he used to manifest this logic was his greatest gift to humanity and the gods: language, writing, the hieroglyphs. To the Egyptians, words were not just passive symbols. They were active, creative forces. To write something was to give it a form of reality. To speak a name was to summon its essence. This power was called Heka, the Egyptian concept of magic, and Thoth was its undisputed master. He didn't just invent an alphabet. He revealed the fundamental code of creation. Each hieroglyph was a little piece of the universe, a symbol that held a deeper metaphysical truth. By learning to combine these symbols, humanity was given a sliver of the gods' creative power. They could create binding legal contracts, record history for eternity, and compose spells to heal the sick or protect the dead. This is why Thoth was so revered. He didn't just give people the ability to write shopping lists. He gave them the tool to structure their reality, to bring order from chaos, to make the intangible tangible. He was the original programmer of the Matrix, and he handed the instruction manual to us. This connects directly to another one of his major roles, being a moon god. First glance, this seems random. What does the moon have to do with writing and wisdom? Everything. The sun Ra was a symbol of raw, constant, overwhelming power. It was pure energy, always visible, always the same. The moon, however, was subtle. It was cyclical. It measured the passage of time in a more gentle, observable way through its phases. It governed the tides, the mysterious pull of the unseen. It illuminated the darkness, revealing what was hidden. But it did so with a soft, reflected light. The moon was the symbol of knowledge that isn't obvious, of wisdom that has to be sought out in the quiet of the night. Thoth, as the silver sun, represented the intellectual power of reason and measurement in contrast to Ra's raw creative power. He was the god of the calculated, the rhythmic, and the recorded. This made him the perfect mediator. In a pantheon filled with gods driven by passion, rage, and desire, Thoth was the calm, rational center. The most famous example of this is in the epic, 80-year-long struggle between Horus and Set for the throne of Egypt. This wasn't just a family squabble. It was a cosmic war. Horus represented divine order, rightful succession, and civilization. Set represented chaos, brute force, and the untamed wilderness. Both were necessary for the universe to exist, but their conflict threatened to tear the world apart. Throughout the story, as Horus and Set engage in brutal, often bizarre, contests, it's Thoth who constantly steps in. When Set tears out Horus's eye, it is Thoth who magically heals it, creating the famous Eye of Horus, the symbol of restoration and protection. When the other gods are deadlocked, unable to make a decision, it is Thoth who writes letters to the higher gods, urging them to intervene and restore balance. He is the divine lawyer, the celestial therapist, the one voice of pure reason in a storm of divine ego. He never takes a side based on preference. He only sides with Ma'at, with cosmic balance. He understands that a universe with only Horus would be stagnant, and a universe with only Set would be pure destruction. Both are needed, but they must be in their proper place. So when we look at Thoth, we see the complete picture emerge. He is the scribe who records reality, the architect who designs it, the magician who shapes it with words, the moon god who measures it, and the judge who ensures it remains in balance. These aren't separate jobs. They are all facets of a single monumental task: to understand and maintain the operating system of the cosmos. The secret knowledge of Hermes Trismegistus, the wisdom carved into the emerald tablet, wasn't a departure from this. It was the ultimate summary of it. It was the revelation that the laws Thoth used to balance the universe weren't just for the gods. They were for us too. The principles of balance, truth, and cosmic order applied to everything, from the movement of a planet to the thoughts inside a human skull. Thoth's wisdom was the key to becoming a co-creator with the divine, to consciously align your own life, your own heart, with the eternal cosmic rhythm. But this raises a terrifying question. Thoth represents perfect order and reason. His entire existence is dedicated to maintaining a delicate balance. But what happens when that balance is shattered by a force that cannot be reasoned with? What happens when the scales are tipped so violently that even the God of wisdom is brought to the brink of despair? The answer is chaos. Unthinking, brutal, and absolute chaos. It arrived not as a creeping shadow, but as a thunderclap that split the heavens and tore the heart out of Egypt. It came in the form of a brother's jealousy. Osiris, the beloved king, the bringer of civilization, was murdered, struck down and dismembered by his own brother, Set, the god of the desert, storms, and unbridled rage. The ultimate act of Isfet, of chaos against Ma'at, the divine order. The scales of the universe didn't just tip. They were smashed to pieces. While other gods recoiled in horror or plotted their revenge, Thoth went to work. He was not a warrior god like Montu or a grieving widow like Isis. He was the divine physician, the cosmic engineer, the one who understood that for every action, there must be a reaction, and for every wound there must be a cure. His first task was one of grim necessity. He joined the desperate goddess Isis in her search for the scattered pieces of her husband's body. Across the length of the Nile, they searched, and with each recovered fragment, it was Thoth who used his knowledge of anatomy and divine biology to catalog and prepare them. He knew the precise rituals, the exact unguents, the specific wrappings required. But his true contribution was not in the physical assembly. It was in the words. As Isis and her sister Nephthys wept and worked their powerful magic to knit flesh back to bone, it was Thoth who stood beside them, reciting the sacred spells of reanimation. He was the architect of the ritual, the voice that spoke the forgotten words of power, the scribe who had recorded the blueprint for cheating death itself. He chanted the litany of restoration, his voice a steady rhythmic anchor in a storm of grief and arcane energy. He was breathing magic into the world, weaving a net of syllables and symbols so strong it could pull a soul back from the abyss. And it worked. Osiris was made whole again, resurrected not as a king of the living, but as something new, something necessary. The eternal lord of the underworld. In this singular act of cosmic defiance, a seed of hope was planted. From this magical reunion, Isis conceived a son, Horus, the falcon-headed god, the rightful heir to the throne. But an infant king is a vulnerable one, and Set, now the usurper on the throne of the living, would stop at nothing to eliminate his nephew. So Thoth's role shifted again. He became the protector, the teacher, the divine guardian of the future. He hid the young Horus in the papyrus swamps of the Delta, shielding him with spells of concealment and confusion. He taught the young god the wisdom of his ancestors, the history of his divine right, and the knowledge he would need to one day reclaim his father's kingdom. Thoth was raising not just a god but a king. He was nurturing the single flame of order left in a world consumed by chaos. Years passed. Horus grew into a powerful, determined god, ready to challenge his uncle. But this would not be a simple battle of might. Set was a being of immense physical power, a master of brute force. A direct confrontation would be a gamble. Horus, guided by Thoth's wisdom, chose a different battlefield, the courtroom. He brought his case before the Ennead, the great tribunal of the gods, presided over by the sun god Ra himself, and in this courtroom Thoth's true power would be revealed. He was not a lawyer arguing for one side or the other. He was the court itself. He was the divine stenographer, the keeper of the official record, the embodiment of impartial justice. The trial, known as the contendings of Horus and Set, would last for 80 years. 80 years of divine arguments, of celestial bickering, of magical duels and dirty tricks. The gods were a dysfunctional jury, swayed by their own biases and ancient loyalties. Ra, the aging king, had a soft spot for Set's strength and vigor, seeing him as a vital defender of the solar barge against the serpent of chaos, Apophis. Isis, naturally, was a fierce advocate for her son. The other gods constantly changed their minds, their allegiances shifting like the desert sands. Through it all, Thoth remained the calm center. His reed pen scratched tirelessly across papyrus scrolls, his ibis head bent in concentration. He recorded every word, every accusation, every verdict, no matter how absurd. When Set declared he should be king because he was the strongest, Thoth recorded it. When Horus argued his right by bloodline, Thoth recorded it. His scrolls became the single source of undisputed truth, in a conflict defined by lies and deception. He was the memory of the gods, and his memory was perfect. But he was more than just a scribe. He was the voice of reason. When the arguments devolved into shouting matches, it was Thoth who would clear his throat and calmly restate the legal principles at stake. When the gods proposed settling the matter with yet another violent, pointless contest, it was Thoth who would suggest a more rational test of leadership. He was constantly, tirelessly, trying to steer this broken vessel back towards the shores of Ma'at. The conflict wasn't confined to the courtroom. The two gods engaged in a series of violent contests, and in one particularly brutal fight, Set gained the upper hand. He gouged out Horus's left eye, the eye that represented the moon, and tore it to shreds. The cosmos was thrown into imbalance once again. The moon vanished from the sky. Darkness reigned. Horus was maimed, his power diminished. But Thoth, the master healer, intervened. He gathered the pieces of the shattered eye, using his saliva, a substance believed to have magical, creative properties, and his incantations to make it whole again. He didn't just repair it, he improved it. He infused it with his own magic, creating the Wadjet, the Eye of Horus. It became one of the most powerful amulets in all of Egypt, a symbol of healing, restoration, protection, and wisdom. By healing the moon, Thoth had literally restored light and order to the night sky. He had taken a wound born of chaos and transformed it into a symbol of divine perfection. Still, the trial dragged on. Set's deceptions grew more elaborate, the gods' indecision more frustrating. Finally, after decades of deadlock, Thoth devised a brilliant legal strategy. He proposed that they do something unprecedented: consult the victim himself. He argued that since the kingship of the living was in question, who better to ask than the former king Osiris? The other gods were stunned. How could they consult the dead? Thoth, the master of words, the messenger, had the answer. He would write a letter. So Thoth drafted a formal request, a divine subpoena, addressed to the king of the underworld. He dispatched the letter to the land of the dead, a feat only he could accomplish. The reply came back, and it was unequivocal. Osiris's ghostly voice, transcribed by the underworld scribes, thundered from the scroll. "How?" he asked. "Can you place my throne in the hands of the very monster who murdered me? Is there no justice? My son Horus is my heir. Place him on the throne, or I will unleash the demons of the underworld upon you all." The threat was undeniable. The testimony was irrefutable. Faced with the fury of the king of the dead, the gods had no choice. Ari finally conceded. The verdict was read aloud, and it was Thoth who recorded the final, binding judgment. Horus was declared the rightful king of Egypt. Set was defeated not by strength but by law, not by a sword but by a letter. Order was restored. The balance was reset. The 80-year war was over, won by the patient, meticulous, and unwavering wisdom of the divine scribe. Thoth had proven that the pen was, in fact, mightier than the fist. He had mended a murdered god, healed the wounded moon, and recorded the verdict that would define the line of pharaohs for eternity. He had stared into the heart of chaos and, with knowledge and the written word as his only weapons, had restored the world. But this victory was in the realm of the gods. A far greater challenge was brewing. A challenge born from one of Thoth's own greatest gifts to the universe. What happens when humanity, armed with the power of writing, begins to question the gods themselves? What happens when the keepers of knowledge are no longer divine but mortal? The answer to that question would not be found in quiet contemplation or philosophical debate. It would be found in blood, in betrayal, and in a divine civil war that would tear the Egyptian pantheon apart for 80 long years. This was the ultimate stress test of Thoth's new world order, a cosmic lawsuit known as the Contendings of Horus and Set. It all began with a murder. Osiris, the beloved king of the gods and embodiment of order, was tricked and killed by his own brother, Set, the god of chaos, storms, and the untamable violence of the desert. Set hacked Osiris's body into pieces and scattered them across Egypt, seizing the throne for himself. But Osiris had an heir, his son Horus, the falcon-headed god of the sky. From the moment he came of age, Horus had one singular purpose: to avenge his father and reclaim his birthright. This wasn't just a simple matter of a duel at dawn. This was a question of cosmic law, of Ma'at itself. Who had the legitimate right to rule? The strong and powerful incumbent Set, or the young rightful heir Horus? The gods themselves were divided. So they convened the Ennead, the great tribunal of the most powerful deities, to hear the case. And at the center of it all, sitting with his palette and reed pen, was Thoth. He was not the judge, not initially. Ra, the mighty sun god, presided. But Thoth was something more important. He was the court reporter, the keeper of the record. Every word spoken, every accusation hurled, every piece of evidence presented, was meticulously recorded by his hand. For the first time in cosmic history, divine conflict was about to become a legal document, a permanent, unchangeable text. The trial was a circus of divine ego and dysfunction. Ra, the head of the pantheon, was biased. He favored Set. Why? Because Set was strong. Every night, as Ra's sun boat traveled through the treacherous underworld, it was Set who stood at the prow and fought off the great serpent of chaos, Apep. Set was useful, a blunt instrument of power that Ra respected. Horus, to him, was just a boy, a claimant with a grievance. The other gods were intimidated by Set's explosive rage and unwilling to cross Ra. So the case dragged on and on, for 80 years. Frustrated by the legal stalemate, the gods decided the matter should be settled through a series of contests. This is where the story descends into a kind of divine reality show. A series of brutal and often bizarre challenges. First, they were to race in boats made of stone. Set, ever the literalist, went to the mountains, hewed a massive boat from a peak, and dragged it to the Nile, where it promptly sank. But Horus, guided by the cunning of his mother Isis, was clever. He built a beautiful boat out of pine wood, but covered it in a thin layer of plaster, painted to look exactly like granite. His boat floated effortlessly. When Set saw Horus gliding past, he flew into a rage, transformed himself into a hippopotamus, and attacked, shattering Horus's boat. The contest was a wash, a mistrial, and Thoth recorded it all. The challenges grew more personal, more venomous. In one of the most infamous episodes, a battle of pure trickery unfolded. Set, attempting to prove his dominance over Horus, violated him in his sleep. His plan was to appear before the tribunal and claim that Horus was unfit to be king because he had been subjugated. But Isis, ever watchful, intervened. She collected Set's seed from Horus's body and threw it in the river. Then, she took some of Horus's own seed and secretly spread it over the lettuce in Set's favorite garden. Lettuce being an aphrodisiac and Set's favorite food. The next day in court, Set made his grand accusation. Horus is unfit to rule. I have dominated him. The gods were in an uproar. But Thoth, the calm voice of reason and procedure, stepped forward. He proposed a test. He would summon the seed of each god to see where it would answer from. First, he called to Set's seed. The gods listened. A faint voice answered, from the bottom of the Nile River. The court was stunned. Set was humiliated. Then Thoth called to the seed of Horus. A golden light began to glow from within Set's own body, and a solar disk emerged from the top of his head. Horus's seed answered from inside his rival. The evidence was undeniable. Set had not dominated Horus. In fact, he had unknowingly ingested the seed of his rival, a far greater sign of subjugation in the eyes of the gods. Set's case was decimated, and Thoth recorded every mortifying detail for all eternity. Still, the war raged on. In a moment of pure fury, Set ripped out Horus's left eye, the moon, tore it to pieces, and flung it into the darkness. The sky went black. The universe was wounded. It was Thoth who patiently walked the cosmic shore, gathering the pieces of the shattered eye. He used his magic, his divine knowledge of healing and restoration, to piece it back together, creating the whole and perfect Wadjet eye, a powerful symbol of healing, protection, and restoration. He literally gave Horus his vision back. But even this was not enough to sway the deadlocked court. Ra still favored Set. The gods were paralyzed by indecision. The very principle of justice was failing. Brute force and political favor were winning out over truth and legitimacy. It seemed that chaos was destined to rule. And it was here, in this moment of ultimate crisis, that Thoth made his master move. He showed the world that his greatest gift wasn't magic, or healing, or even wisdom. It was the written word. He told the assembled gods, "This tribunal is a failure. Let us write a letter." The other gods were baffled. A letter? To whom? They had all stated their positions. Thoth's plan was audacious. They would write a letter to the one god whose opinion truly mattered, the one they had all forgotten, the murdered king Osiris himself, now ruler of the underworld. Thoth, the master of scribes, penned the letter. It was a formal appeal, sent across the boundary of life and death. It detailed the 80-year struggle, the failure of the court, and posed the simple question, who is the rightful king? The reply that came back from the land of the dead was terrifying in its fury. Osiris's letter, delivered to the tribunal, was a masterpiece of righteous anger. He shamed them. "Why has my son been robbed of his throne?" he wrote. "Are you, the great gods of the Ennead, content to let justice die? Do not forget," he warned, "that I am the Lord of the dead. All of you, every single one, will one day stand before me in my kingdom to be judged. I hold your ultimate destinies in my hands. Do you want to be judged by a king whose own son was denied his birthright?" It was a threat wrapped in a legal argument, a checkmate delivered by post. The letter changed everything. Faced with the wrath of the king of the underworld, the gods had no choice. The verdict was finally delivered. Horus was the rightful king of Egypt. Order was restored. Ma'at was re-established. But Thoth's wisdom extended beyond a simple victory. He knew that an enemy as powerful as Set could not simply be vanquished. That would only create a vacuum, a new source of chaos. So he arbitrated the peace. Horus took the throne, ruling over the fertile black lands of Egypt. But Set was given dominion over the harsh red lands of the desert and the wildness of foreign countries. He became the god of storms, his power acknowledged and given a purpose, contained but not destroyed. Balance was achieved. And it was all because of a reasoned, recorded, and legally binding process. The pen, it turned out, was mightier than the sword, even a divine one. The scrolls detailing the contendings of Horus and Set were sealed and stored in the divine archives. The case was closed, but the precedent was earth-shattering. For the first time, the gods had been shown not as perfect, infallible beings, but as flawed, biased, and squabbling figures. They could be tricked. They could be humiliated. They could be wrong. And the proof was now a matter of public record, written down in a language that mortals were beginning to master. Thoth, in his quest to bring order to the cosmos through law and writing, had inadvertently created the ultimate tool for questioning it. The gods were no longer just a subject of faith. They were now characters in a story. And that story, once written, could never truly be erased. This permanence created a new kind of power, and a new kind of danger. Because if a story can't be erased, then neither can a crime, neither can a lie, neither can a grievance. The divine ledger that Thoth had created wasn't just for recording hymns and star charts. It was now the universe's official record of wrongdoing. And it was about to get its first major entry. An entry so scandalous, so violent, and so utterly bizarre, it would test the very limits of divine law and order. This was the story of the great betrayal, the trial that would tear the Egyptian pantheon apart, the contendings of Horus and Set. It all began with a murder. Osiris, the good king, the embodiment of order, was tricked and killed by his own brother, the chaotic and ambitious god Set. Osiris's body was dismembered and scattered across Egypt. It was a crime that shattered the cosmic balance. But Osiris had an heir. His son Horus, conceived by the magic of his wife Isis even after his death. As Horus came of age, he came to claim his birthright, the throne of Egypt. But Set, the usurper, the murderer, refused to yield. He claimed the throne was his by right of strength, and so began the greatest legal dispute in mythological history, an 80-year-long cosmic lawsuit, with the fate of creation hanging in the balance. The case was brought before the Ennead, the council of the most powerful gods, presided over by the sun god Ra, and who was tasked with being the court clerk, the one who had to record every testimony, every piece of evidence, every insult, and every outburst. None other than Thoth. He wasn't just a scribe here. He was the embodiment of the legal process itself. His palette and stylus were the instruments of justice. Every word he wrote gave the proceedings their legitimacy. Without Thoth's record, it would just be a shouting match between two feuding gods. With his record, it became law. It became history. He was the divine court reporter, tasked with documenting a case where the plaintiff was a falcon-headed god of vengeance and the defendant was the god of chaos itself. Imagine the scene. Thoth, the calm, meticulous god of reason, trying to maintain order in a courtroom filled with gods who were biased, emotional, and prone to spectacular tantrums. The presiding judge, Ra, was old and easily swayed. He actually favored Set, seeing the chaotic god's raw power as a useful asset. From the very beginning, the scales of justice were tipped. The trials began, and they were anything but orderly. They were a series of brutal, often humiliating contests. In one, Horus and Set transformed themselves into hippopotamuses and agreed to hold their breath underwater. The first one to surface loses, but Horus's mother, Isis, fearing for her son's life, throws a magical harpoon at Set. She hits him, but then feels pity for her brother and releases him. Horus, enraged that his mother interfered and let his enemy go, flies into a rage, cuts off her head, and flees into the desert. Think about that. Thoth has to write this down. Day 12,452 of the trial. The plaintiff, Horus, decapitated his own mother, a key witness, and is now a fugitive. This wasn't a debate about legal precedent. This was a dysfunctional family drama playing out on a cosmic scale, and Thoth was the one taking the minutes. His scrolls must have been filled with accounts that defied all logic and decorum. The contests grew more and more desperate. There was a boat race, where the boats were to be made of stone. Horus, ever the trickster, built his boat out of wood but plastered it to look like stone. Set, seeing this, simply lopped off the top of a mountain and tried to sail it. Of course, it sank immediately. Set, furious at being tricked, transformed into a hippopotamus and attacked Horus's boat, shattering it. The trial was declared a draw. Again, Thoth recorded it all. The precise weight of the mountain, the type of plaster used by Horus, the exact words of the insults hurled across the water. His job wasn't to judge, not yet. His job was to ensure that the truth, in all its ugly, chaotic detail, was preserved. He was the guardian of the facts, even when the facts were insane. But the most infamous episode, the one that truly reveals the depths of this conflict, is a story that ancient Egyptian scribes themselves were sometimes hesitant to write down. It was a story of violation and cunning. Set, inviting Horus to his home under a flag of truce, attempts to sexually assault him in the night, a profound act of domination meant to prove his superiority and humiliate his rival. But Horus is warned. He catches Set's semen in his hands and, on the advice of his mother Isis, discards it in the river. Then they hatch a plan. Isis takes some of Horus's own seed and spreads it on the lettuce in Set's garden, Set's favorite food. Unsuspecting, Set eats the lettuce. The next day, they go back before the divine court. Set stands up and makes his claim. I have dominated Horus. He is unfit to rule. He calls for his seed to answer from within Horus's body to prove the violation, but there is no answer. Then Thoth, in his role as master of magic and knowledge, calls for Horus's seed to answer, and a golden solar disk emerges from the forehead of Set. It is Horus's seed, now inside the god of chaos. Set has been utterly, publicly, and incontrovertibly humiliated. He didn't dominate Horus. He was tricked into carrying his rival's seed. Thoth records this. Every sordid detail. This wasn't just a legal victory. It was a masterstroke of strategy that turned Set's own lust for power against him. And while Isis and Horus devised the plan, it was Thoth who validated the outcome. He was the one who summoned the evidence, whose divine authority confirmed the truth for all the gods to see. The written word, the official record, now stated that Set, the god of masculine strength, had been feminized and tricked. Even after 80 long years of this chaos, the gods were still deadlocked. The case had gone nowhere. Frustrated, Thoth finally steps out of his role as a mere scribe and into his role as a wise counselor. He pens a letter, a brilliant piece of legal and political persuasion, and addresses it to the great god Osiris, now ruling in the underworld. He lays out the entire case, the injustice of his son Horus being denied the throne for so long. The letter works. Osiris writes back, a threatening, powerful message to the Council of Gods. He asks them a simple question. Should his own son be denied his birthright while his murderer sits on the throne? He reminds them that he controls the messengers of death, and that every god, sooner or later, will end up in his kingdom. It's a veiled threat, but it's enough. The gods, terrified, finally rule in favor of Horus. Horus becomes king. Order is restored. Set is subdued, not killed, but given a new role as the god of storms, his chaotic nature harnessed to protect the sun god's boat as it travels through the underworld. The cosmic balance is reset, and it was all made possible by Thoth, not through force but through persistence. Through the meticulous, thankless 80-year-long task of keeping the record. He proved that writing wasn't just a tool for counting grain or praising kings. It was the ultimate arbiter of truth. It could settle the disputes of the gods themselves. His scrolls contain the official, unchangeable history of the cosmos, from its creation to its most shameful family squabbles. But this victory came with a profound realization. Thoth, the quiet librarian of the universe, now held the most sensitive information in existence. He knew the gods' secrets. He had recorded their moments of weakness, their pettiness, their foolishness, their crimes. He was no longer just the god of knowledge. He was the keeper of their shame. What does a being do with that kind of power? What is the weight of a ledger that contains not just the laws of the universe, but the sins of its rulers? For Thoth, that power was not a weapon to be wielded, but a weight to be balanced. Imagine holding the proof of every lie, every betrayal, every shortcut taken by the most powerful beings in existence. A lesser god might have used it for blackmail, for a power grab, to install himself as the new king of the pantheon. But Thoth was not a lesser god. His domain was not power but truth. And the truth he now possessed was a terrifying one, that the divine was just as fallible, just as flawed as the mortal. This knowledge transformed him. He became the silent center of the cosmos. The other gods would watch him, this quiet ibis-headed figure, always writing, always observing. They began to treat him differently. There was a new deference in their tone, a flicker of fear in their eyes. They knew he knew. Ra in his solar barge knew that Thoth was aware of every moment of his own doubt, his own weariness. Isis, for all her cleverness, knew that Thoth had recorded the morally ambiguous bargains she had made to protect her son, Horus. And Set, the god of chaos, knew that Thoth possessed a perfect, unblemished record of his every transgression, a list far longer than anyone could imagine. Thoth became the keeper of the cosmic balance not through force, but through information. He was the ultimate intelligence agency, the one being who had the complete file on everyone. His library was no longer just a repository of knowledge, it was an arsenal of truth. And in a world run by beings of immense ego and power, a single undeniable truth is the most dangerous weapon of all. Yet he never used it. His power was in the potential, in the silent, ever-present threat of revelation. He let the gods police themselves, all under his watchful, knowing gaze. He understood that true order Ma'at wasn't about controlling others. It was about creating a system where actions had consequences, where the truth eventually would always be accounted for. And it was this profound understanding, this experience as the archivist of divine sin, that uniquely qualified him for his most solemn and terrifying duty. The role that would define him in the hearts and minds of every mortal in Egypt for 3,000 years. He would be the final arbiter, the one who presides over the judgment of the human soul. When a mortal died, their journey was not over. They had to embark on a perilous voyage through the Duat, the underworld, facing monstrous demons and treacherous pathways. Their goal was the Hall of Two Truths, the final courtroom where their life would be weighed in the balance. And waiting for them in that hall, standing beside the great scales, was Thoth. Picture this scene. A vast, silent chamber, lit by an ethereal glow. 42 divine assessors, terrifying gods with the heads of crocodiles, hippos, and serpents, sit as the jury. In the center stands the scales of justice. On one side, a single pure white ostrich feather is placed. This is the feather of Ma'at, the embodiment of truth, order, justice, and cosmic harmony. And the soul of the deceased is brought forward. They are instructed to present their heart, for the Egyptians believed the heart was the seat of intelligence, emotion, and conscience. It was the record of one's entire life. The heart is placed on the other side of the scale. The soul then had to make a declaration, the negative confession. They had to address each of the 42 assessors and declare a sin they had not committed. I have not stolen. I have not lied. I have not caused pain. I have not been arrogant. This wasn't a claim of absolute perfection. It was an appeal to the balance of their life, a plea that they had lived in accordance with Ma'at. And all the while Thoth watched. He was not a passive observer. He was the divine court recorder, the celestial prosecutor. With his scribe's palette and reed pen, he observed the proceedings, his gaze missing nothing. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, would adjust the scales, ensuring they were perfectly calibrated. But it was Thoth who interpreted the result. It was Thoth who possessed the ultimate knowledge to know if the soul's confession was true. He had seen the hearts of the gods. He could certainly read the heart of a mortal. Then came the moment of truth, the fulcrum of eternity. If the heart heavy with sin, with deceit, with selfishness tipped the scales, if it was heavier than the single feather of truth, a horrifying beast waited nearby. A creature named Ammit, the devourer of the dead, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, a combination of the most feared animals in the Egyptian world. If the verdict was guilty, Ammit would lunge forward and devour the heart. And for the ancient Egyptians, this was the most terrifying fate imaginable. It wasn't an eternity of punishment in a fiery hell. It was oblivion, the second death, the complete and utter annihilation of one's existence. You would simply cease to be. But if the scales balanced, if the heart was as light as the feather, if a lifetime of good deeds, of kindness, of honesty, had created a soul in harmony with the universe, then Thoth would raise his hand. He would dip his pen and record the verdict. Ma Keru, true of voice, justified. The soul had passed the ultimate test. It was Thoth's pronouncement, his written and spoken word, that opened the gates to the afterlife. The soul was then led by Horus into the presence of Osiris, the king of the underworld, to be welcomed into the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, a perfect reflection of the world they knew, where they would live for all eternity in peace and abundance. This entire process, this foundation of Egyptian morality, rested on the unimpeachable integrity of Thoth. He was the one being trusted by gods and mortals alike to be impartial. His judgment was not based on wealth or status or power. A pharaoh's heart was weighed on the same scale as a farmer's. Before Thoth, all souls were equal, measured only by the truth they had lived. He was the great equalizer, the cosmic accountant who ensured every debt was paid and every good deed was rewarded. He had seen the corruption at the highest levels of the universe, and in response, he created a system of perfect, incorruptible justice for the souls of humanity. He was the keeper of secrets, the judge of the dead, the voice of reason in a chaotic pantheon. He held the balance of the universe in his steady, scholarly hands, but his knowledge went deeper than just law and sin. The secrets he kept weren't limited to the actions of others. Thoth, the architect of reality, the scribe who wrote the world into being, possessed a different kind of knowledge, a far more dangerous and powerful kind. He was the author of a book so powerful, it was said to contain the very spells that the gods themselves used, the secrets to commanding the earth, the sky, and the underworld. A book that could give a mortal the power of a god. This was not a ledger of sins, but a grammar of creation, the legendary and very real Book of Thoth. And the story of those who dared to seek it out is a lesson in the terrifying price of forbidden knowledge. The quest for this book begins not with a thief or a warlord, but with a scholar. Prince, in fact. The son of the great pharaoh Ramesses II. His name was Setenkamwas, and he was a man obsessed. He wasn't driven by a lust for gold or territory, but by an insatiable hunger for knowledge. He was the high priest of Thoth, the keeper of ancient records, a man who spent more time in dusty tombs deciphering forgotten hieroglyphs than he did in his own palace. To him, the past wasn't dead. It was a library of secrets waiting to be read, and he had heard the whispers, the fragmented legends of a scroll written by the hand of Thoth himself. He began his search in the archives of the gods, the sacred libraries where mortal access was forbidden. He bribed priests, charmed scribes, and pored over texts so old they crumbled at his touch. He learned that the Book of Thoth was real, but it was not in any temple. It was buried with the last man foolish enough to possess it, a prince from a bygone age named Neferkapta. The scrolls told Seton exactly where to find his tomb, but they also came with a chilling warning. Do not go there. The book is cursed. Everyone who has owned it has met a terrible end. Leave the dead to their slumber. But for a man like Seton, a warning is just an invitation. A locked door is a challenge. He gathered his men and traveled to the necropolis at Memphis. He found the tomb hidden and unassuming, But the moment he stepped inside, the air grew cold, thick with a silent ancient grief. There, in the central chamber, he saw them. Not mummies wrapped in linen, but shimmering ethereal forms, the spirits, the Ka bodies of Prince Naneferkaptah, his wife Awur, and their young son Merib. They were the book's eternal guardians, bound to it by tragedy. Seton, ever the scholar, was not afraid. He was fascinated. He announced his purpose. He had come for the Book of Thoth. It was the spirit of Awur who spoke first, her voice like the sighing of the wind through reeds. She begged him to turn back, to leave them to their sorrow. To convince him, she told him their story, a story of love, ambition, and the wrath of the gods. Her husband, Naneferkaptah, she explained, was just like Seton, a brilliant scribe, a powerful magician, who wanted nothing more than to read the words of Thoth. He learned the book was hidden at the bottom of the Nile River, near Koptos, sunk in an iron box. Inside the iron box was a bronze box. Inside the bronze box, a sycamore box. Then an ivory and ebony box, then a silver box, and finally a golden box. And inside that golden box lay the book. But it wasn't unguarded. The boxes were surrounded by a league of serpents and scorpions, and coiled around the final golden box was a serpent that could not be killed. Naneferkaptah was undeterred. Using his own profound magical knowledge, he crafted a boat of wax, enchanted it with spells, and sailed to the location. He created a magical cabin around himself to part the waters of the Nile, allowing him to walk on the riverbed as if on dry land. He recited spells that put the swarms of serpents and scorpions to sleep. But the final guardian, the immortal serpent, could not be subdued by magic alone. So Naneferkaptah fought it. He severed it in two, but the pieces rejoined. He cut it again and again, and each time it became whole. Finally, realizing he couldn't kill it, he placed sand between the bisected halves, preventing them from reconnecting. He defeated the unkillable guardian through cleverness, not just force. He seized the golden box, returned to his boat, and opened it. There it was. 2 spells written on a single roll of papyrus. He read the first spell aloud. Instantly, the world transformed. He understood the language of the birds in the sky and the fish in the river. He could hear the whispers of the insects in the grass. The secrets of the earth were laid bare before him. Then he read the second spell, and the world changed again. He could see the sun, the moon, and the stars as they truly were, not as distant lights, but as living gods on their celestial barges. He could look upon the face of Thoth himself. He had gained the knowledge of the gods. He and his wife Awur were overjoyed. They sailed back to Memphis, their minds buzzing with the symphony of creation. But Thoth, in his celestial court, discovered the theft. He was furious. A mortal had plundered his divine mind, stolen the very grammar of the universe. He went before the great god Ra and demanded justice. Ra granted it. He gave Thoth leave to do whatever he saw fit to punish the thief. The curse fell swiftly and without mercy. As they sailed the Nile, their beautiful son Merib, who was playing on the deck, leaned over the edge, slipped, and fell into the water. He was gone in an instant. Naneferkaptah, using the power of the book, spoke a spell and brought his son's body back up from the depths, but it was too late. He was dead. Heartbroken, Awur threw herself into the river and drowned in her grief. Naneferkaptah, now utterly alone, his prize turned to poison in his hands, saw the futility of it all. What good was the knowledge of the gods if it cost him his family? He took the cursed book, tied it to his own body with a strip of royal linen, and followed his wife and son into the dark waters of the Nile. The pharaoh, upon learning of the tragedy, had their bodies recovered and entombed them together, where they now stood before Seton. Awur finished her tale, her spectral form trembling with an eternity of sorrow. "That book you seek," she whispered, "brought us nothing but pain. It is a cup of poison. I beg you, do not drink from it. Leave it here, and go back to the world of the living." Any sane man would have fled. Any wise man would have heeded the warning. But Seton Kamwas was not just any man. He was a prince of Egypt, a master of magic in his own right, and his ambition was a fire that burned away all fear. He looked at the ghost of Naneferkaptah and saw not a tragedy, but a failure. He believed he was smarter, stronger, and would not make the same mistakes. He refused to leave. Seeing his resolve, the spirit of Naneferkaptah himself finally spoke. He proposed a wager. If Seton wanted the book, he would have to win it. They would play a game of Senate, the ancient game of passing, a contest of strategy and fate played for millennia by kings and commoners alike. But this game would be for the highest stakes imaginable, a mortal soul against a divine text. Seton agreed. A magical Senate board appeared between them, its pieces glowing with otherworldly light. They began to play. Seton was a master of the game, but he was playing against a spirit who had nothing but time to perfect his strategy. He lost the first game. As he did, he felt a strange pressure, and realized he had sunk into the stone floor of the tomb up to his ankles. He was being physically pulled into the underworld. Unsettled but undaunted, he played again. He lost a second time. The floor seemed to turn to mud, and he sank to his waist, the cold of the grave seeping into his bones. He played a third desperate game. He lost again. Now he was buried up to his neck, the stone floor closing in around him like a suffocating shroud, the ghostly faces of Naneferkaptua's family watching him with pity and sorrow. He was trapped, beaten, one move away from being consumed by the tomb forever. In a panic, he called out to his brother, who was waiting outside the tomb. "Inyataf, hurry, bring me my magical amulets from my library. My scrolls of Thoth, do not delay." His brother rushed to fetch the items. With the power of his own enchanted talismans now at his disposal, Seton played the final moves. The magic of the living world surged into the dead space of the tomb, overwhelming the ancient power of the curse. He won. He wrenched himself free from the floor, snatched the Book of Thoth from the hands of the defeated spirit, and fled the tomb, ignoring the mournful cries of the ghosts he left behind. He emerged into the brilliant Egyptian sun, victorious, clutching the most dangerous object in the world. He had faced the dead, heard their warnings, and gambled his very soul. And he had won. He unrolled the papyrus, his eyes wide with triumph and anticipation. But as he began to read the divine words, he was completely unaware that his victory was not an end to the curse, but merely the beginning of his own. The first spell he read sent a tremor through the very fabric of his being. It was a language not of ink and papyrus, but of creation itself. With a single whispered word, he could understand the chatter of the birds on the palace balcony, their conversations no longer meaningless chirps but intricate discussions of nests and seeds and the coming storm. He cast his gaze to the sky, and another incantation peeled back the veil of the day, allowing him to see the stars burning in their celestial river, the sun a mere boat floating upon it. He read the third spell, and the world of the dead opened to him. He could see the spirits of his ancestors walking the palace halls, hear their whispered advice, their warnings lost on the wind. He was no longer just Seton, son of a pharaoh. He was a master of secrets, a peer of the gods. The power was intoxicating, a wine more potent than any press from the Nile's finest grapes. He walked through Memphis a changed man, the city's secrets laid bare before him. He saw the hidden anxieties behind the merchant's smile, the lover's betrayal hidden in a sidelong glance. Knowledge was power, and he had stolen the ultimate source. It was during one such walk, his mind swimming in the arcane energies of Thoth's book, that he saw her. She was walking toward the great temple of Thoth, and the world seemed to slow, the cacophony of the city fading to a hum. She was more beautiful than any woman he had ever seen, more radiant than the goddess Isis herself. Her name, he would learn, was Tabubu, a priestess of Batet, and from the moment his eyes met hers, Seton was lost. His wife, the mother of his beloved children, became a pale shadow in his memory. The power of Thoth's book, which could command the heavens and the earth, was nothing compared to the power this woman held over his heart with a single glance. He pursued her relentlessly. He sent gifts of gold and lapis lazuli, silks from the farthest lands, perfumes that cost a fortune. She accepted them with a polite grace but offered nothing in return. He was a prince, a scholar, a magician of unparalleled power, yet he was a beggar before her. Finally, desperate, he confronted her at the temple gates. He professed his love, his obsession, his willingness to do anything to be with her. Tabubu looked at him, her eyes as deep and mysterious as the night sky he could now read so well. She told him she could not be with a married man. The law, her honor, would not allow it. If he truly wanted her, he must first divorce his wife. A sane man would have recoiled. A good man would have turned and walked away. But Seton was no longer entirely sane. nor entirely good. The book's magic had amplified his every desire, turning passion into a ravenous hunger. The thought of his wife, Ahura, and their son, Siosiri, brought a pang of guilt, but it was a flickering candle against the blazing sun of his desire for Tabubu. He went home and, with a coldness that frightened even himself, he wrote the bill of divorce. He cast out the woman who had loved him, the mother of his heir, leaving her with nothing but her tears. He had made the first sacrifice on the altar of his obsession. He returned to Tabubu, the divorce decree in his hand, his heart pounding with a sick mix of triumph and shame. He had proven his devotion. Now surely she would be his. She took the papyrus, read it and smiled. But her smile held no warmth. It was the smile of a predator. "You have done well," she said. "But my children will need security. Your son Siosiri is the heir to your fortune. What will become of my children if I am with you? You must sign over all of your property, all of your wealth, to me and to them." The demand was outrageous. It would leave him a pauper, a prince with no inheritance. Yet, as he looked at her, at the curve of her lips and the promise in her eyes, his fortune felt like dust. The whispers of the book in his mind told him that with its power, he could create 1,000 fortunes. Wealth was temporary. She was eternal. He drew up the deeds, his hand not even trembling as he signed away his entire worldly existence. With the documents in hand, he approached her once more, his soul now stripped bare. He had given up his family, his fortune. He had nothing left to offer but himself. He was certain this was the final test. But as he stood before her, he saw that the predatory smile had deepened into something truly monstrous. "There is one last thing," Tabubu said, her voice a silken trap. "Your children by your first wife, they are clever. They will grow and contest the deeds. They will seek to reclaim what they believe is theirs. I will never feel safe. My children will never be safe. As long as yours still draw breath." The world stopped. The chirping of the birds he could understand became a chorus of shrieks. The spirits of his ancestors he could see began to wail in silent agony. This was not a test of love. This was a descent into madness. Every fiber of his being, every last shred of the man he once was, screamed in protest. His children, his own flesh and blood. To even think of it was the gravest of sins. He looked at Tabubu, expecting to see a demon, a monster from the darkest pits of the underworld. But all he saw was the most beautiful woman in the world, her face etched with a convincing tragic fear. The book, tucked securely against his chest, seemed to thrum with a dark energy, feeding his obsession, warping his reason. It whispered to him of power, of breaking all mortal rules, of becoming a god who could create life and therefore had the right to take it away. His love for his children warred with the spellbinding madness that had consumed him. It was a battle for his very soul. He went to his home, the palace that was no longer his. He saw his children playing in the courtyard, their laughter a sound more beautiful than any divine hymn. For a moment the spell broke. He saw the horror of what he was contemplating. But then the image of Tabubu filled his mind, and the dark magic of Thoth's book wrapped around his heart like a serpent, squeezing out the last of his light. He called his children to him. He told them he loved them. And then, with the stolen power of a god and the heart of a monster, he committed an act so unspeakable, it would stain the sands of Egypt for all time. He silenced their laughter forever. He returned to Tabubu, his hands metaphorically dripping with the blood of his own family. He stood before her, a hollowed-out man, having sacrificed everything. He had passed her final monstrous test. He was ready to claim his prize. He looked at her, his eyes pleading. And for the first time, Tabubu threw back her head and laughed. It was not a sound of joy or love. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated mockery. A cruel, echoing laugh that seemed to shake the very foundations of the temple. As the sound filled the air, her perfect form began to waver, like a reflection in disturbed water. Her beautiful face dissolved, her silken robes faded into dust. Her entire being evaporated into the hot Memphis air, leaving nothing behind but the sound of that terrible phantom laughter. And in the deafening silence of his empty world, with the blood of his children on his soul, Seton finally understood the true nature of the curse. He had not won a prize. He had paid the ultimate price. With the phantom book clutched in his hand, a treasure that had cost him everything, Seton fled back to Memphis. He ran through the streets, a madman haunted by ghosts, until he reached the palace. He threw himself at the feet of the pharaoh, confessing his crime, his theft, his unholy arrogance. The pharaoh, seeing the prince's utter devastation, listened with grim understanding. There was only one path back. The book had to be returned. So Seton journeyed back to the necropolis, no longer a prideful prince seeking power, but a broken man begging for mercy. He entered the tomb of Neferkapta, the air thick with the silence of the dead. There they were, the spirits of Neferkapta and his wife Awur, their spectral child Merib playing at their feet. The ghostly Ka of Neferkapta rose, his expression not of anger, but of profound sadness. Seton fell to his knees. He held out the Book of Thoth, not as a prize, but as a poison he could no longer bear to hold. He confessed his folly, his greed, and the terrible price his own family had paid. He begged for forgiveness, not from a god, but from the man whose rest he had desecrated. In that moment a profound shift occurred. Seton, the great scribe, the heir to the throne, finally understood the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is a tool. Wisdom is knowing how and when and if it should be used. Neferkapta, seeing the genuine remorse in Seton's soul, revealed the final piece of the puzzle. The ghostly woman Tabubu, her beautiful children, the entire horrific illusion. It was all a creation of Thoth. A lesson. A trial to protect the book from the unworthy. Thoth had not cursed Seton with death, but with a vision of what his hubris would cost. The god of wisdom had forced the prince to weigh his own heart, and to find it wanting. With this revelation, Seton's path was clear. He swore an oath to Neferkapta. He would not only return the Book of Thoth, but he would also retrieve the bodies of Awur and Merib from Koptos, where they had been buried, and reunite them in this tomb, so the family could finally be whole in the afterlife. With the book returned to its rightful place, the curse was lifted. Seton raced back to Memphis to find his wife and child alive and well, with no memory of their grisly fate. He had been given a second chance, a gift of mercy from the very god whose power he had tried to steal. The story of Seton became a legend, a stark warning whispered for generations. The wisdom of Thoth is a river, not a vault. You can drink from it, but you can never hope to own it. This tale, more than any other, illustrates the profound duality of Thoth. He is the generous giver of knowledge, the patron of scribes, the architect of language. But he is also its fierce guardian. He understands that knowledge is power, and that power in the wrong hands, or in the hands of the arrogant, is the most destructive force in the universe. As the centuries rolled on and the glory of the pharaohs began to fade, the reverence for Thoth did not. When the Greeks arrived in Egypt, first with Alexander the Great and later with the Ptolemaic dynasty, they encountered this ibis-headed god of magic, writing, and divine judgment. And they saw in him a reflection of one of their own. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, the guide of souls, the god of language and commerce. This was no simple replacement. It was a fusion, a syncretism of incredible power. The Egyptians and Greeks began to see Thoth and Hermes as two faces of the same divine principle. They merged into a new legendary figure, Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes, the thrice greatest. This name was a direct echo of Thoth's ancient Egyptian epithet, great, great, great. Thoth had not been forgotten. He had been reborn, transformed for a new era. Under the guise of Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth's influence exploded beyond the Nile Valley and into the heart of Western civilization. He became the mythical author of a vast body of texts known as the Hermetica. These writings blended Egyptian magic, Greek philosophy, astrology, and alchemy into a potent spiritual system. They weren't about worshiping gods in a temple. They were about a personal quest for gnosis, a direct, intuitive understanding of the divine. The core principle of this new tradition was captured in a single immortal phrase, said to be inscribed on an emerald tablet left behind by Hermes Trismegistus himself. As above, so below. This was the ultimate secret of the universe. It meant that the workings of the heavens, the macrocosm, were perfectly reflected in the workings of the earth and of humanity, the microcosm. To understand yourself was to understand the cosmos. To understand the stars was to understand your own soul. This single idea became a cornerstone of Western esotericism for the next 2,000 years. Alchemists in their hidden laboratories, seeking to turn lead into gold, believed they were not just performing a chemical process, but a spiritual one, purifying the base matter of their own souls, reflecting the divine process of creation. As above, so below. Astrologers charting the movements of the planets believe they were reading a cosmic map of human destiny. As above, so below. Renaissance mages, Kabbalists, and secret societies all drew from this deep well of Hermetic wisdom, a wisdom whose ultimate source was the ibis-headed god of the Nile. Through Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth became the silent architect of ideas that shaped the very minds of figures like Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, and Carl Jung. Newton, the father of modern physics, spent more time translating the Emerald Tablet and studying alchemy than he did on gravity or optics. He was searching for the unified theory of everything, a divine blueprint he believed was encoded in these ancient, Thoth-inspired texts. So who is Thoth? After this long journey, from the dawn of creation to the halls of Western esotericism, the answer is more complex and more profound than we could have imagined. He is the divine scribe, meticulously recording every moment of existence, ensuring that nothing is ever truly lost. He is the eternal arbiter, the voice of reason and balance in a universe of chaos, weighing the hearts of the dead with perfect, dispassionate justice. He is the master magician, the one who knows the true names of things, the secret words of power that can shape reality itself. He is the moon in the night sky, a steady, cyclical light in the darkness, a measure of time and a symbol of quiet reflection. But above all, Thoth is the personification of divine intellect. He represents humanity's eternal, unquenchable thirst for knowledge, our drive to understand the world, the cosmos, and our own place within it. He is the patron of the librarian, the scientist, the poet, the philosopher, anyone who seeks to bring order out of chaos through the power of the word and the clarity of the mind. Unlike the raw, physical power of a god like Ra or the chaotic force of Set, Thoth's power is subtle, pervasive, and eternal. It is the power of the idea. An idea can't be killed. A word once written can echo through millennia. The knowledge he guards is the ultimate prize and the ultimate test. As Prince Seton learned so tragically, promise is power, but it demands wisdom. It offers enlightenment, but it requires humility. Thoth is the silent god who stands behind the veil of reality, the cosmic librarian who holds the records of all that was, all that is, and all that will be. He is the whisper of inspiration in a quiet study, the flash of insight that solves an impossible problem, the deep satisfaction of finding the perfect word. His legacy is not carved in stone monuments, but in the very structure of our thoughts, our languages, and our unending search for meaning. He teaches us that the greatest journey is not across deserts or oceans, but across the vast, uncharted territory of the human mind, and that the most sacred text is not a scroll hidden in a tomb, but the universe itself waiting to be read.